In 2016, a new TV show hit the digital airwaves and needed a podcast dedicated to chronicling its adventures. An elite team has been assembled for this task. Unfortunately, the world's listeners have not heard of this Wonder Twin duo. And although they may not be known now, in the future they will be referred to as tomorrow's legends.
I think it best you move on out of here. This town ain't big enough for the 1, 2, 3 of us? 3 of us? Whoa! Flash is outnumbered. By women. Oh, happy podcast. Oh, wait. That's the Wally West version of Flash. He's the flirt. I'm more the Barry Allen mold. Anyway, what a special day this is as we welcome in our very first official guest host. Official as in joining me and Harley together. It's so great to get to say hi to you, Harley, and
Miss Patty Spivak.
Yay! Welcome aboard, Patty. Great to have you here with us.
Yay.
Thank you.
Welcome, Patty. It's nice to see you here, or hear you here.
Thank you. I'm back. Hi, everybody.
This is awesome. So, this is something we wanted to do. It was part of our surveys we did at the end of last season, Jess, was to have guest hosts on. And we just thought it'd be fun because Patty had some great feedback. People enjoyed listening to her, and she happens to be here with me tonight. So we thought, why not throw her on the show and give her a full official guest spot?
I think it sounds like a great plan, and I am glad you're here. Welcome, Patty.
Thanks, guys. Glad to be here.
Well, let's get to this. We are reviewing Legends of Tomorrow, Season 2, Episode 6, called Outlaw Country. Let's start it off with you, Harley. What was your impressions of the show?
Should I give my rating too while we're at it?
Of course, they kind of go hand in hand.
That's true. Why do I even ask? All right. I gave this episode 7.5 interrupted broing out moments. So, I mean, the show was okay. I would say this was probably my least favorite episode of this season so far, but I did really enjoy all the moments with Nate and Ray and with the ones with Jax. The 3 of them were just the 2, Nate and Ray together. That was some of the best parts of the episode for me. I wasn't really super invested in the Jonah Hex portion of the show. I'm not sure why, but it didn't jump out at me. But the parts I did like about that were Sarah's character growth. So, I mean, I thought she showed a lot of growth as a captain and in her leadership and in her maturity, which was refreshing, especially after the last episode. So, I don't know. And then it also felt a little predictable this episode, just the things that what they set up very clearly happened. It's like, I was watching some things in the beginning and I was like, oh, I bet this is this. And by the end of the episode, it was completely confirmed. So,
right.
I don't know. What did you think about it?
I'm pretty much feeling the same as you. This is kind of unprecedented. From the beginning of the season, you and me have been jiving pretty close on our ratings.
Yeah.
So I'm giving it a 7 steel-stopping locomotives. Definitely, I thought of it as a filler episode. It felt like a lead up to bigger things. Nothing really revealing, dramatic, or story changing. I'm with you on the Jonah Hex feeling. There just doesn't seem to be much of anything about him. No character traits really stood out. Nothing he does or says makes him memorable or, for me, obvious why it should be cool that he's guest appearing. Because I know there's a lot of people that were excited about Jonah being on the show, and to me, nothing's really stood out with him. And it's like, this guy's just a cowboy trying to do the good thing, and really, there's not much more to him. So I don't. And I think we talked about Jonah last season, what his abilities and powers are, and I don't remember. Do you remember what's special about him, Harley?
Off the top of my head, no, I don't. I don't think, at least in this episode, and I don't think in the last episode either, it didn't seem like he actually had any powers, that they hadn't really, stuck with that from the comics. I don't quite remember what his powers are from the comics either, though.
Well, anyway, to continue on, it just seemed like the writers were already preparing for the crossover, but had this one last ep to put together. I found it light, not really smartly written as the first 5 eps. The jokes even seemed a little bit forced and kind of tiresome. I'm just hoping this isn't a trend, and they just lost a bit of focus due to the big 4-show crossover that's coming up. That's kind of the feeling I got.
Yeah.
You feel where I'm coming from?
I do, yeah.
Well, how about Patty? I think Patty's got a little bit different feeling and perspective. How about you give us your rating and impressions?
Well, I gave it 7.75 bullets caught in my teeth. I actually enjoyed the episode. We got to see each character in their element. They all got equal time on screen, so we got to see a bit of everyone. I think Sarah's just getting better and better. Lots of funny moments from Ray and Mick and Nate. The stuff between Ray and Nate I really enjoyed, and Mick I always love. So lots of them just being silly, and every time they spoke almost I was chuckling. So I do agree with the whole, we've kind of been there, done that with the Wild West theme. There's so many times and places they can go to, and I guess, I don't know, I was a little surprised that they went back to the same place again. Something to tie in, I guess, with Jonah Hex, but I agree with both of you on that storyline. Doesn't do much for me either. I was starting to think actually that they were going to do big themes for each episode. Like first we had the Nazis, and then we had ninjas, and then we had my least favorite zombies, but that seems to have been short-lived. So I don't know, but yeah, I did enjoy the episode overall.
That's good. We need some positivity in here.
Yeah, I think
that's me.
She's coming in to rival our bit of sour attitude, so that's good. This is exactly why you bring a guest host on board, because they're going to bring us perspective that maybe we're not quite seeing.
Yeah, and I think for this episode especially, we're going to need that, because I think we were both a little down on it.
Yeah, well, to me, this is twice now, because in the first season, the Wild West episode was probably my least favorite of the whole season, and it just seemed to tank for me. And this one, again, this is my least favorite of the season, just like you, Harley, so.
Yeah, actually, the one last season I really liked. I think I gave it a 9. It was one of the higher rated ones for me. I don't remember why I liked it so well, but at the time I really liked it.
That's right. We were very opposite on that one.
Mm-hmm. So I'm glad Patty's here to bring us up, because we were kind of more or less in sync on this.
Too funny.
Yeah.
Well, let's dive into it. Right off the bat, we have Martin Stein doing the intro again.
I don't get it. There's no rhyme or reason. I've given up trying to figure it out.
Well, here's a small theory that I have. It almost seems like the character with the smallest part in the story is getting to do the monologue.
Really? Is it really working out that way?
But a couple episodes ago, it was the character that had the biggest storyline.
The first,
like the Jax one.
Well, I think
yeah,
Martin
but Jax
did,
didn't do the monologue for his big story.
Oh, that's right.
Martin did. Yeah.
Yeah.
Jax introed, I think, the last episode.
Last week.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's just something I was kind of guessing at, so.
That is interesting.
The mystery continues.
Yeah. Maybe there's no rhyme and reason to it. Who knows?
I don't know.
Who got to work early that day, maybe.
Yeah. Well, so it kicks off, and here we are heading back to the Wild West, which was Liberty, Colorado, 1874. And what do we have? We get another time pirate.
This seems to be a theme that we're opening with time pirates.
Uh-huh. Which it kind of plays into my question, why aren't they looking a little more into this whole time pirate idea? But by the time they got there, this time pirate was long gone this time.
That's true, yeah. They didn't figure out until after they found the device in the mine that it was actually a time pirate, but...
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you could tell, like, right off the bat, though, what he was. I mean, he looked like he was trying to fit in, yet distinctly out of place. Like, his clothes were just a little too modern, just a little too clean.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And then, of course he pulls out the tracking gadget, whatever it was, right away.
Mm-hmm.
So it didn't take too long to tell us that, yeah, he's not from around here.
So just another interesting way to open it. I wonder if we're going to continue to see this theme with random Time Pirate of the Week opening the show.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it makes me wonder if they're slowly going somewhere with that. Like, just how are these pirates traveling through time so easily? Do they all have time traveling ships? Because to me, that starts to become a problem, I would say.
I would agree with that. Yeah, that's true. I didn't really think about it until you just mentioned it, but that could be a huge problem. So maybe they'll answer that for us by the end of the season.
Yeah.
That would be nice.
Maybe they're finding them more often because of Nate's little quakeometer thing. So they couldn't find them or notice them as much before, and maybe, or I guess that was more to do with Jonah though.
It was, but I mean, I think that was in the last episode. Wasn't that how they tracked down the aberration? Was his time quake thing?
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yeah. So.
Oh, that's a good point. It could be that they're picking up on them more, but because they were, before he created that device, that he had to go through all the history books and scan it to find out if anything has changed, and that's the only way they knew that something had happened.
Yeah. Yeah.
So now they're getting more of an immediate alarm that, whoops, something's off.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's a cool invention.
It's a cool invention, yeah. and it's good. I mean, you can call a plot device all you want, but it's actually a really good one that works. It totally suits the premise of our show, that they come up with something to help detect aberrations.
Yeah, no, it totally makes sense. I'm glad they introduced it.
We interrupt this program to bring you a special report.
All right, so before we get into it, ladies, just a quick couple news items that came up thanks to the Overlord once again. He beat me to it. Oh, that guy. We found out that Legends of Tomorrow is moving to a new time slot starting at the end of January. It is moving to Tuesday nights after The Flash.
Well, that'd be interesting.
Yeah.
It'd be interesting to have them back to back.
Well, I mean, so what I'm wondering, as far as I know, Legends is doing all right ratings-wise. Not as good as The Flash, but all right. So I'm wondering why the move, because this takes away, CW basically owned the week. That's 4 nights in a row of superhero TV. And now they're chopping that down to 3 nights with one show back-to-back. So I'm wondering if they're hoping all the Flash viewers are just going to stick around and they might be able to double their viewing numbers for Legends. I wonder why.
Yeah, either that, unless they have a bigger show slated for Thursdays now. But I did not look to see what is coming out on on Thursdays for the CW in January.
Yeah, I'm not sure. That could be what it is too.
The prediction's coming true.
What's that?
Captain Cold and Heatwave get their own show.
That would be awesome.
Yeah, it's called Prison Break.
Oh, yeah.
What was the other news point that we had, Harley? Along with that comes...
Oh, well, we're back till the 28th starts the crossover, because it's Thanksgiving here next week.
Right, okay. So yeah, we have a week off, guys, before we talk to you again. So, we will be back.
Yeah.
Awesome. Cool. Well, that's it. All we got for news this week.
We now return you to your regularly scheduled podcast, already in progress.
All right, so we join our team on the Waverider, and it looks like they seem to have recovered whatever Dark was after, and it's another amulet. So I thought that was interesting, and what else is interesting is that historically speaking, apparently this amulet never existed, because Nate can't find anything on it. So exactly how did they come to be in a possession of an amulet that doesn't exist? I find that kind of fascinating, and I'm wondering if this has to do with Reverse Flash?
Well, here's my thought. It doesn't exist because it was never found in history, therefore no one knows about it to record it. But now that Thawne found it, could be part of why he's looking. It's unknown except to him. Maybe he found some info earlier in time that never got recorded in history. So he's kind of the only one that knows of its existence.
Interesting.
Does that make sense?
What if he brought it from the future? Maybe it's something that nobody knows about yet because it's from the future instead of the past.
But why would he be looking for it then?
Maybe he dropped it.
Someone stole it. Plot device.
Plot device. Yeah. Plot.
I don't know. I think it's interesting either way, wherever it's from. I mean, it could be from the past and he had discovered it. That would be an interesting theory. And then he sort of So, like, you're saying, like, if he took it, then no one would have been able to find it and record it as history because he took it, or he it was just never deemed important until, like, he found it and realized, like, what it was, type of thing.
Yeah, like, I mean, it existed at one point in time, whether it was some cult or who knows who had it originally. Nothing was ever written or inscribed in stone or whatever about it. But Reverse Flash went back to that period in time. He knew about it, and he took it before anybody else knew what it was in order to be able to record something about it.
Interesting.
Is kind of my play on it. Like, you know, he found it at such an early time in history that nothing was ever recorded about it. So he's the only one that knows it has a power, it has something about it he can use. That was just my angle. We don't know anything about this amulet. We don't have any information at all. So I was really, really just reaching for some type of explanation.
Yeah, no, I kind of was too. That's why I was like, well, that's kind of odd that it doesn't exist anywhere in history. Like, I wonder why that would be, and if that's true, how does Reverse Flash know about it?
Well, I think the only way he knew about it because he's been going back and forth through time anyway, so he could have just happened upon it by chance, went to a time period and, you know, got to know whatever people are there, and he's like, oh, what's this? It's something that's never, you know, that's my only angle I can think of, is that he maybe chanced upon it in history in one of his time travel journeys on his own.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's definitely interesting. I'm excited to learn more throughout the rest of the season so we can find out what the point of these amulets actually is. Because they've collected several relic/amulets over the last couple of episodes.
Okay, so you're pluralizing it. So that's my question. This amulet that they had in this episode, it is not the same one that he stole when he killed Rex.
I do not believe so, because I thought that one was kind of large, like almost the size of a frisbee.
There were 2 different ones.
Yeah, and then this one was small because it was in, like, not a ring box. It was a little bit bigger than a ring box, but it wasn't as big as the other one was. And then Dark also had, was it Nero's axe, or that weapon that he got in the very beginning of the 80s
Nero's
episode?
axe.
Yeah. So he said that was like a relic, and so they're going after, like, rare historical amulets or relics or some things that must have some sort of, I'm guessing, supernatural power. Otherwise, I don't think Dark would be interested in them. But
right, and that's again as part of Dark's story. If we are witnessing him leading up to where he was at in Arrow,
I think we are. I think we have to be, because he can't travel through time. Well, aside from the fact that the Reverse Flash just sent him somewhere.
So that's all changed now.
Yeah, but normally, I mean, he's not a time traveler, and we know he's dead in 2016. So, right?
And how do you remember though from Arrow how long he's been alive for? What, like, how old he actually is? I
mean, he's at least a couple 100 years old, I would think, but I don't remember what he has said. How old was Ra's al Ghul?
A couple centuries, yeah. I don't remember the exact numbers. We're going to have to look that up.
Yeah.
Or maybe one of our listeners can remind us if we got an Arrow fan out there.
Yeah.
Not sure. It's in the hundreds. I know Ra's al Ghul was definitely in the hundreds. He wasn't past 1,000. He was, God, I want to say between 400 and 700 is what I'm remembering. So, and Damien Dark was only his right-hand man for part of that, so Damien's probably only 300 years old, maybe.
Yeah, okay.
I think I need to do some homework. I have no idea what you guys are talking about other than who the people are.
Yeah, you don't follow Arrow as closely.
Yeah, that's definitely incorrect on Arrow. But anyway, yeah, someone give us a reminder if you know.
It's just to ease our minds. We're just trying to figure out the timeline of things, because the reason I'm thinking about that is with Dark being on Legends now, and we see him in history looking for these artifacts. I'm just wondering how long that's been happening for. You know, where did this journey of his start? Yeah. That would tie into his storyline on Arrow to, you know, where it comes to a head for sure. That's all. That's what I'm curious about.
Yeah, it would definitely bring that full circle. So Hopefully they get into that, but anyway.
All right. Yeah, let's move on. Next point that you got here, Harley.
Yeah, so, I mean, this is just, because we're going to talk about this at the very end, because it was just a very small part of the episode, but this is where we see Martin, he gets this, like, random headache that really kind of almost knocks him over, and we don't really see what that's really about until later in the episode. But, I mean, we can either dive into that now and just get it out of the way, since it's such, like, a minor point.
Well,
or
we
can
could.
say
I mean,
it
it was strange because he felt it and Jax did not.
Right.
So something was happening to him that Jax couldn't feel, which I found kind of interesting, and I know people on our Facebook page were talking about that, wondering why Jax wasn't experiencing the same pain. And I mean, we do find out that it's Martin's memories are being, or they deduce that he's getting new memories written into his brain, basically.
Yeah, which I thought was really interesting, because this is kind of one of the points that I found to be very predictable, although incredibly interesting. But as soon as you see him having some flashes, I was like, oh, he's getting new memories.
Yeah.
So looks like his younger self is, I guess, like falling in love with someone else. But I thought he was already married to Clarissa. So I don't know what's going on. That's very interesting. I want to hear more about that.
Well, at the 2 episodes that we've seen his younger version, he wasn't married to Clarissa yet. He wasn't in the first season because he was just meeting her.
He was in the last episode.
I don't think they were married yet.
She referred to him as her husband a couple times.
She referred to him?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that they were referred to him as her husband.
I remember that now at the dance, right?
Mm-hmm.
She was looking for her husband.
Okay. I forgot about that. Okay. Well,
I think they were newlyweds, but yeah, they were definitely married.
Okay. That changes how I was thinking about this particular point thing, because I thought when the older Stein was telling him, he was referring to her as your future wife. You're talking about our wife. She's mine now, but she will be yours, was how I was seeing it. So they already were married at that point. So who is this woman in Stein's visions then? Because he says, I feel like I'm in love with her.
Mm-hmm.
We don't know. As far as I know, him and Clarissa never had any children. Maybe something's changed there. That's his daughter he's seeing.
Maybe. Now that's an interesting theory. He didn't say what type of love. I like that.
Exactly.
That's a good one. That's as good as any.
Yeah. Cool. I don't know. We can talk about that more or wait for later, but that's...
I think we pretty much covered it. Like I said, it was just such a small part, but very, very interesting and intriguing. I definitely am eager to learn more about that.
Well, let's just address, before we get away from it, let's address the one point of Jack's not feeling it, though.
Oh, right,
because Stein is getting new memories, so it's just him remembering things, and their psychic connection only allows them to feel each other's feelings, what they're going through at that moment. So I think with Stein getting new memories and he's recalling his emotions from those, the emotions are also getting written at the same time. So I think that's probably the break why Jax can't feel it, because, well, this is hard to science out of this. Okay, go for it.
No, I'm following what you're saying, but I have a question, and maybe you can kind of wrap this into your explanation. Do they feel each other's physical discomfort? Like, if Jax breaks an arm, can Stein feel that? Or is it just emotional?
They've noticed each other in pain before.
Have they?
Yes. Yeah.
And I remember they did that writing on the arm thing where they wrote on a message, and when Stein was captured and then the message popped up in his arm, like in the first season. So they have definitely that connection.
Okay, then
she's right.
Cause then I definitely agree that it's very weird that he didn't feel it. So.
And this is where I'm trying to wrap my brain around it and put it into words for everybody, is that I think his brain is having memories written to it, and at the same time, emotions are also being written to his brain. So I think that's where the break is Jax isn't able to feel that because they're not things Stein is feeling in real time. It's something that, man, that's really hard. I don't know if I'm explaining what I'm thinking.
I think I'm following what you're saying. Yeah, definitely. Okay. I mean, basically you're saying it's really not like an experience that's happening. I know what you're saying, but it's very difficult to explain. So I'm thinking from context that people will follow your explanation.
Okay. But you kind of reword it. He's not experiencing it in real time.
Yeah.
The experiences are being written over his brain, like his brain is getting overwritten with new information, so he's not experiencing it in real time. And I think Jax isn't able to, whatever their connection, he's not tapping into that. He's not able to.
I think that's as good of an explanation as any.
Okay. Good. So. I pseudoscienced my way to that, sort of.
Science.
All right. So our next point then.
I found this funny.
Well, you take her away then.
I mean, they gave us some insight on what happens to Nate's clothes when he steals up, which I don't know that I buy, but it was very funny. He says that they stretch out and fit all weird. I was like, okay, shouldn't they like shred or get burned off like we said in the zombie episode? Shouldn't his clothes have burned off in the explosion? But I guess they don't really want to have to deal with having a naked actor running around for a few scenes.
Although I'm sure a lot of the lady viewers would appreciate that.
I would not complain.
It seems like sometimes they're under the steel and sometimes they're over the steel though. Like in his first couple steel ups, they disappeared, right? And he was just a complete, and then in this episode, they were on him still, so it's confusing to me.
I agree.
I wonder if that's under his control, if he has to mentally decide, because he mentally chooses to steal up. I love this term, steal up, like that. We have to can that phrase somehow.
It's great.
You heard it here first. He steals up. But I wonder if because he has to choose to steal up that he also subconsciously decides to steal up what he's wearing as well or not, because you are right. I think his clothes have also changed to steal at some parts.
I think they're just being slightly inconsistent and I don't know.
Right. But back to your point about you don't know if you buy his clothes stretching out, you think they should be torn up or destroyed or whatever. I mean, this is just the Incredible Hulk of stretch effect happening here. Because look at when Bruce Banner, he's a skinny little guy that weighs 120 pounds. And when he turns into the Incredible Hulk, the Hulk is like 9.5 feet tall and huge, like gigantically huge. And his pants don't rip or anything. They just kind of grow with him.
That's
so
true.
Unless he just wears like stretched, jeans with spandex in them, I don't know.
Oh my God. Yeah, I don't know either. I mean, I get it. At least in this episode, it didn't look as if he bulked up too bad, like with the steel, like maybe a little bit, because it's totally changing the consistency of him, So I could buy that it would maybe stretch him out a bit and make him fit all weird in that instance. But like in the zombie episode one, when after the explosion, I think his clothes probably should have been incinerated personally, but whatever, I'll let it go.
Well, I mean, for me, at least they're attempting to answer a couple plot hole questions, because this is something that's been in our last couple podcasts. We've been questioning what happens. So at least they're trying to answer that question. I'll give them that credit. And to me, it's acceptable if his clothes stretch out a bit, because he doesn't really get bigger. He only slightly gets a bit more body mass. So yeah, to me, it's acceptable. That's fine.
I'll say it's acceptable.
And Patty, acceptable?
Acceptable. I'm nodding over here.
That's a major vote?
It's not a video podcast, Patty.
Yeah, video podcast.
Oh, right.
Nobody...
You have to speak.
Okay. Right, got it.
And actually, it's kind of funny that we just spent a very good portion of talking on Martin getting a headache and on whether Nate's clothes stretch or should blow up, which is kind of funny. I'm gonna interject here because have you listened to Arrow Squad yet today, Harley? Or this week?
No, because I have not watched this week's episode. Oh yeah, Flash and Arrow spoilers. If we could avoid those for this week, that would be great.
Sure, yeah, we will. Well, it's just funny because in Arrow Squad, and I told them I was going to do this, but our dear friend podcast overlord there was ripping into me on Arrow Squad with my feedback. I played it for Patty today, and she had a good chuckle because in my feedback, I was ripping into him and Cammy about the two of them being too analytical about last week's episode without Brian there to bring in the fan the fan flavored excitement and get all crazy about the fun stuff like that, because I know Brian would just absolutely fanboyed out about Dolph Lundgren being in there like I did, and yet Podcast Overlord and Cammy, they were very analytical about his performance and him being there and all that kind of stuff, and they just kind of tore it apart. So my feedback was very like, you guys are too analytical and Dolph was great, whatever. So then he in turn ripped into me. He's like, Martin, I listen to your guys' podcast, Tomorrow's Legends, and for me, that show is extremely fun and light, and it's my popcorn show, and you and Jess are so analytical about that show. So how dare you tell us that we're analytical about our show when you do the same thing on yours?
He might have just proved his point there,
he
guys.
He has a good point. He does. He has a very good point. To be fair, it wouldn't be much of a podcast if we just got on here and said, that was awesome, and then got off the air.
Exactly. So as much as I'm going to bow my head in pitiful acceptance, Kevin.
Aww, he really is. You should see how sad he looks.
You are very right and very true. But now I'm going to lift my chin and I'm going to defend us, Harley, because like you just said, our show is fun and lighthearted, and if we just flew by the seat of our pants and threw popcorn in our mouths while we're eating this, it would be a 5-minute podcast, and that wouldn't be very fun for anybody. It is our job to dive in and rip this thing apart and figure out the time travel, timey-wimey stuff and figure out what their writer's trying to do. That's what a podcast is all about.
Agree.
So there, Overlord. Back at ya.
Oh, poor Kevin. We still love you.
Is there such thing as podcast wars? That might be a whole new thing.
There is now.
There is now. It begins here.
Oh dear.
All right.
Or what was the name of one of the episodes? Shall It Begin?
So It Begins. That was last week's.
Yes.
So
All
It
right.
Begins.
Moving on, back into the Wild West. Where are we, Harley? See, at the very least, Kevin and Brian should be very proud of our podcast tangent that we do.
We do. We really... Hey, and I even jumped to the end at the beginning. Boom. That's what I learned from Arrow Squad.
There you go. Well, we did start our podcast in the shadow of Arrow Squad, so we were trying to live up to what they do, and we've kind of taken on some of their habits,
including a third host. Huh?
Oh no! Don't drag me into this, you guys.
Too late, Patty. All right.
Oh no.
Anyway, all right. So we're back in the Wild West. And our team comes upon Jonah Hex, who is about to be hanged, which is pretty unfortunate for him. And so it looks to me like that is the source of that aberration.
Okay, but is it? I was reading your note here, and it got me thinking, is he the aberration? 'Cause what was the Time Pirate and his little device there, finding the dwarf star matter, which leads to Turnbull and kind of changing the course of the United States, and he gets his own country. I think that was the source of the aberration, and that maybe like they landed near the coordinates and they were on their way to the mining site, and they just happened to come across Jonah Hex. And I think Sarah also got confused by that because they came across Jonah Hex, and she said, "Oh, yeah, you're the source of the aberration because you're about to be hanged." So I'm wondering if both the characters on the show and us as viewers got fooled into thinking that it's Jonah Hex, but really it's not.
I mean, that would definitely make a lot more sense, but yeah, it was just in the show, it was so misleading because even Sarah said, "Oh, well, these coordinates led us straight to you." And so I was like, okay, well, that's kind of weird because it seems like it's unrelated, him dying, with the other storyline. It seems like the dwarf star is what would cause the aberration because that's what ultimately allows Turnbull to take over.
Mm-hmm. Well, and Patty, you had a point about you were trying to come up with a story for why Jonah could be the aberration.
Yeah, well, I was trying to figure out, like, he has to have done something really important in the near future if his dying in that moment created a time quake. But then, yeah, as we're kind of hashing it out here, I bet you the time quake actually was the dwarf star being discovered. They landed at those coordinates, heard the commotion of Jonah being hanged, ran over there, and then just assumed that he was the reason. So otherwise the two storylines, which seem very big, don't tie together at all.
Yeah, no, they don't. I mean, the only thing about it is that we find out he's trying to hunt down Turnbull because he's like his arch nemesis or whatever. So the only other thing other than the obvious dwarf star part would be that if Hex dies in that moment, then he doesn't ultimately capture Turnbull and stop him from segregating the Wild West into Outlaw Country or whatever.
Yeah. So I think Jonah Hex may have just been, it'd just be the right place at the right time. He would have been hung otherwise if our team didn't have to go through that area. So it is just, I think the timing of it all.
Yeah, it was just weird timing and then the way they phrased some of it in the episode. But then I guess we do see, like, because Nate does some digging in the library and he pulls out this history book that's changed. And then we see the map that shows the large portion of the western U.S. is now Turnbull Country or whatever they termed it. So I guess that would be that's the true aberration. Then that makes sense.
Worthy of a time quake.
And actually, even just listening to the three of us talk about it now, actually, I think I found something else to figure it out. Is it wasn't until the time pirate showed up to dig out the dwarf star that Turnbull even knew about it. So if you take the dwarf star out of it and you take the time pirate out of it, Turnbull is just being your typical bad guy trying to take over a town, trying to whatever. And in the original timeline, Jonah Hex shows up and does stop him. But now because the time pirate showed up and added in elements that were not there originally, it changed the course of Turnbull's storyline himself. So now he's got the dwarf star, he's got more people behind him, he's got more power, and he's able to stop Jonah Hex. That's why Jonah Hex is now going to be hung and everything.
Okay, that makes more sense.
Does that make sense?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. See, we're figuring it out. This three heads thing works really well.
It does. See, Kevin, this is what happens when we get analytical. I'm just kidding.
I love it. She's all mine, Kevin. See, she's backing me up on this one.
I'm a villain. I have to do whatever it is I'm doing. Stir the pot is the phrase I'm looking for.
Cool. All right. Well, now we got that kind of figured out in our minds, which is good. Now we see Nate jump to action, pretty much.
Yeah. So that part of the scene was just pretty fun. Like, I like that he's like, I've got this, he steals up, he saves the day, sort of. But it was kind of fun just to see him, like, having fun trying to, like, stop all the bullets and just, like, I don't know, like, knocking him down. Like, I really like the choreography of that whole scene. And then, of course, the part that inspired Patty's rating when he catches the bullet in his teeth. I mean, that was pretty awesome.
It was pretty fun. Yeah, like you said, he was having a good time. And I think, he's getting better at using his power. He's able to change to steel in an instant now whenever he wants. So that's good. He's training, he's practicing, there's progress with him learning his power. So I love seeing that. It's a great, me and Patty were talking off air there. She thinks we're using the terminology growth in our characters too much.
Oh,
so I don't want to term it that way. It's just great to see him progress with his abilities.
That's a good term.
Yeah, he's gaining confidence too. Like, you can see him going from super uncertain last episode to now sort of he's getting more confident with it, and he's ready to jump in and ready to help and ready to be part of the team. And I just think it's funny, these guys never seem to be able to operate as a team, though. One's always hatching a plan and just running off with it like he did. I got this, and away he goes, like there's 5 or 6 of them, and It's always one just taken off.
Always.
That's true. That is a very good point.
They're very dysfunctional.
Indeed.
But it works for them.
Well, if the rest of the team is unwilling or they're hesitant and time's ticking, at least one member is ready to jump into the fire and at least do something.
Yeah, that's true.
And then it forces the rest of them to follow suit and, kind of deal with it on the fly.
Yeah, that's true. All right.
All right, what's
so,
next?
Yeah, so we've covered this pretty good about, like, what was going on with Turnbull and ultimately what the aberration was. And so kind of the last little bit that we learn out of these scenes is that because he started mining this dwarf star, I guess, I don't know if it's called ore or whatever. At first they were just calling it ore because they didn't know what it was.
Yeah,
but,
it was ore.
Yeah, but then they figured out that he owns the entire town because I guess he's gotten so rich off of mining the dwarf star. But I don't know. I'm not sure I fully understand that, but that was kind of just what they were alluding to.
Yeah, well, I mean, first off, the fact that he changes like a good third of the United States on the west coast there is now Turnbull Country. I mean, that's a major aberration. That's a massive change to history.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, I guess this is a part of my nitpicker. Like, how does he get rich? How do they move the ore? How isn't it way too dense and heavy to move? Do they even have the tools back then? Yeah, you know what? I'll get into it. I think that's part of my nitpick. But,
all right, we'll save that then.
Yeah, but back to your point, he's getting rich off the ore. Well, exactly how is he getting rich off the ore? Nobody knows what it is. How do you use it? Yeah.
Well,
exactly.
He figured out how to be powerful with it, so he just takes what he wants. He can take all the cattle and take all the land and take everybody's stuff, and poof, he's rich.
That's a good point.
I guess, yeah.
Think about it that way.
Boy, it's good to have her here, eh? Because we're
yes, we've got some more answers. It's good to have another voice.
But this is what happens when it's just me and Harley, and we go through our entire show. When we get to feedback, people in our feedback always give us perspectives we don't see, and that's why we love the feedback. It allows us to discuss things like, oh yeah, great.
Yeah, and a lot of times people find something, that we didn't discuss about. So
I think, yeah, it's like you said, it's like having live feedback on the go right now.
Yeah.
From one of our major contributors.
Exactly.
I didn't send feedback in this week though, sorry.
Well, this is your feedback, so we'll count it.
Yeah. All right. So what's our next point?
All right. So here, this is going to start kind of just going a little bit less scene by, like, a little bit less chronologically scene by scene and more just in themes. So we kind of had the whole storyline with Nate, Ray, and Jax, and they were supposed to infiltrate the mine. And it just really cracked me up that they were posing as accountants.
Yeah. Someone was questioning on the Facebook page if there was even accountants back then. I mean, what was our...
I didn't look specifically, but they did say they were from the IRS, and at least in the show, they appeared to know who the IRS was.
Yeah, and I mean, it's only 1867, and I believe there was full-on bank systems and accountants and things being tracked back then. So I was okay. I'll definitely hand wave that past. It was fine. I mean,
yeah.
What else are they going to disguise themselves as to infiltrate Turnbull's, home base there?
Yeah, exactly. And there's been accountants in some way, shape, or form for a very long time, centuries at least. Because, every time there's money, you've got to have someone to control it or count it or do something with it. So, it may not be exactly the accountants that we picture today. An accountant today is very, very different from an accountant, 200 years ago. But
if I remember from other Western movies that I've seen and Western-based TV shows, back then in those days, the government and the accountants, they were very, very powerful, and they could do exactly that, just stroll into town and shut operations down of any kind.
Yeah.
Because they had that kind of control, and everybody just like, whoa, yep, they're here, okay, do what they say.
Yeah. Well, they control the money, so. Anyway,
I mean,
I thought it was
back
fine.
then they owned the land too. They handed out. You couldn't go mining unless you bought the land or owned the deed to the mine or whatever it was you're doing. So
yeah. But anyway, so I thought it was an interesting way to go in and get some research done and try and figure out what's going on. I mean, we'll talk about this in a little bit, but like while they're doing this, like they sent Mick into the saloon, basically just say, "Hey, here you go, have a good time." So,
has he ever suited a task more than
no,
that?
seriously. So I enjoyed that part, but we'll talk about his contribution as part of the next storyline here. I just want to finish out real quick with like Nate, Ray, and Jax.
Well, this is when Sarah was basically handing out orders, like she was making assignments here, and I know you had something to say about that, Patty.
Yeah, I thought she showed really good leadership here. Like, she assigned the perfect task to each person and formed her whole plan around everyone's, abilities, which, even drinking whiskey and starting fights.
That's true. That's true. She did very well identify each person's purpose for this mission. I thought that was well done.
Yeah, and that's a sign of a good leader. They know the people underneath them and know what they're capable of or what they're best suited for. So yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So kind of moving on with this storyline, like our accountants, they basically get confronted by Turnbull's men. So they've discovered that the mine and what's going to happen. And so then you have this kind of like fight scene that goes on. And I just found that very amusing that they decided to just punch their way out of the situation. There's one way to do it.
Well, it doesn't give anything away, right? So
yeah, exactly. So I was glad they were able to actually just have like a old fashioned fight and not have to like use anybody's superpowers. It was, it was a little refreshing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So.
I mean, they used their wits. They used, I don't know if it was wits, but they just realized they didn't have to power up to get out of there. And really, I mean, it was Jax and Ray who don't have any powers right then. It's really
exactly
only Nate. So it just allowed them to show that they could still be useful to the team and still do stuff and still accomplish something without having any of their powers.
Yeah, exactly. So instead of informing the rest of the team, they decided it would be the best idea to just go to the mine anyway. And I enjoyed Ray's impression of his Mick impression to get past the guard there so that they can go snoop around in the mine just to discover what they're doing down there.
Right. And what do they discover? They discover that they discover that they're mining dwarf star ore, which tells me that I'm trying to remember, and I wanted to question you on this, Harley, if you remembered where the dwarf star came from originally, way back in Arrow when Ray was talking about it, when he first discovered it as a way to power his suit. Because I'm guessing that this dwarf star, or part of it, was like a meteor that crashed who knows when, and somebody just discovered it. And the Time Pirate knew that it was crashed here, so he came and dug it up.
Yeah, I mean, that would be my bet. I mean, it's dwarf star, so it has to have come from outer space at some point, and the only way to get that on Earth is via asteroid. I do not, off the top of my head, I don't, recall exactly where Ray said that it came from, but I feel like it had to be something like that, like it came from some form of asteroid or something that came from space.
Thank you.
Well, yeah, that's what I said.
That's totally what I was thinking.
Yeah, it's like a meteor. I think a meteor, like a dwarf star exploded and pieces of it flew out into the universe, and some of them made their way to Earth and crashed as meteors. And it's just people are digging them up. Ray happened to find some, and now, so the Time Pirate knew that it had hit here, or he's got his little tracking device, I guess, could search out dwarf star material. Mm-hmm. And that's how we found it. So, but I mean, of course, as soon as we see that it's more dwarf star material, everybody basically had a light bulb come on and goes, Ray can make a new Atom suit.
Yay. Yep. That's the first thing I thought of.
But then I rethought that. I said, no. He didn't make the suit out of the dwarf star. He powers his suit with the dwarf star.
Oh.
So his suit is made out of some type of metal alloy, whatever, earth-based metals. He just powers it with the dwarf star material.
Maybe that's why he didn't think to make a new one, because he had nothing to power it with. So now that he does, he can just get at it.
I think so. Yeah.
Awesome. I was hoping that's where they were going with that.
Me too. Although, again, slightly predictable. But that's okay.
What
it
else?
was a good
How
predictable.
would he get a suit? He needs
Exactly.
a new suit.
I know he needs this new suit. So as soon as we had that reveal, I was like, oh, that's how we get him back into his Adam suit. That makes more sense.
Yeah. Unless they go the route that I was talking about a couple episodes ago, that, I mean, the Atom never had, in the comic books and cartoons, he never had an actual suit that shrunk. It was him that shrunk. So maybe they still might figure out a way that he can shrink himself without the need of the suit.
Yeah, that would be interesting if they can do that.
He can make a new batch of magic potion, little dwarf star, little
magic potion. Nice.
Zombie potion and dwarf star.
Yeah, there you go.
There we go.
I do not want to be near that explosion.
All right. Shall we dig into Mick's storyline a little bit here?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right. So I've entitled this Operation Match. So they send him into the saloon basically just to have fun, like gambling and drinking. And he's supposed to confront Turnbull and try and start a fight so that he can like go out in the open and that our team can capture him. But as it turns out, apparently they get along really well.
Quite the bromance that happened there.
Yes.
That was so funny.
Yes.
I mean, it was hilarious to see it change because, of course, they get along. They're both kind of wild dogs, and wild dogs run in packs after all, right?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, Turnbull, he's all about keeping the Wild West wild. I mean, he wants it to be outlaw country, and apparently that is something that Mick would fully support, which kind of makes sense because we saw him last season in the episode where it was like complete anarchy. He's like, oh, this is my place. I want to stay here.
Yeah, he wanted to stay, and it was Leonard that got him to come away from that. So yeah, it just makes sense that he really started to feel at home there and love that situation.
Yeah.
So I was wondering if we were going to have the same problem there, where he was going to decide like maybe I want to stay, but I think Mick has turned, his heart has started to warm up a little bit to our team and to being, even though he won't admit it, to being a bit of a hero. He's kind of liking that, I think, now.
Yeah, I think so too. I think enough of him has turned for the better that he's not going to be able to completely go back to the wild animal he claims that he is.
Right. But what it ended up doing is allow him to win over Turnbull in a way that probably wouldn't happen otherwise, so.
That's true, but Jonah Hex decided that he was going to be super impatient and take matters into his own hands.
Yeah.
So.
Exactly.
Yeah. They're, kind of get along famously, and then he just kind of comes in and confronts him, and then literally the entire bar stands up to defend Turnbull. So that completely backfired and didn't help at all. Well,
Hex ran in there all by himself. What do you expect? So Hex is Hex. I let's call him Jonah. Jonah is going on emotion because we find out that Turnbull killed his parents, and that's what he's. Well, his whole town too. They burnt them all down in the. Mm-hmm. I think it was the church they were in or something.
Yeah.
Where Jonah's the only one who survived. So, but because he lost his parents, he's definitely going on emotional rage and revenge.
Absolutely. Yeah, so that was awesome that she kind of came in with the whip. It was very Indiana Jones. And she awesome. So she kind of like moved that, like redirected where his gun was going to fire just in the nick of time. And then we realized that his bullets must be made out of dwarf star because it causes like a bigger explosion than like a normal bullet would.
Yeah, like some kind of dark matter explosion or something. That was kind of a neat effect.
It was, yeah, it was very cool.
Mm-hmm.
And so that was our first kind of clue.
And then, of course, that erupts into a massive bar fight.
Yes. Yep, and that's when we figure out apparently like Nate, Ray, and Jax have suddenly rejoined the team as this whole bar fight kind of ensues. So we've got the team all back together again, and just in time for them to explain what Turnbull is mining, and then they kind of all put 2 and 2 together and realize like what's going on with the bullets. But so some of the teams, like, they make a break for the ship, but Mick, I mean, he doesn't want to go. Like, I don't understand, like, this change of heart here where he just decides to take on Turnbull instead of, 10 minutes ago they were best friends, and now he's like, oh, I'm gonna just take him on and stay and try and kill him, I guess. Did you understand, like, what that complete flip was? I mean, I guess him being the hero? I don't know.
Yeah, I'm not sure what caused him to flip.
They were really trying to show him in a light of being out of control this episode. Like, he was back in his, room on the Waverider drinking beer and trying to stay away from everyone. And they were trying to show him that he was losing control or spiraling a little bit, I thought. That's how I thought.
Okay.
Yeah.
And he just got caught up in the moment and caught up in the, fighting and being wild and.
Gotcha.
And maybe, Mick doesn't like oppression, so maybe once he realized that this Turnbull was in charge of the entire town and everyone was under his thumb, he's like, no, this guy's got to be stopped. And he wanted to take him on. He figured out a good old fist fight. Actually, I should be able to handle this guy, no problem.
Yeah. Okay, that makes sense. So in the course of this fight, we see him, he runs out of ammo, and he was basically gonna die, except that Nate kind of steps up to protect him, except for one tiny little problem. Apparently, the one thing that Nate is vulnerable to is a bullet made out of dwarf star.
Well, yeah, because if you think about it, the dwarf star is far more dense than steel, which I think Ray explains really quickly. So that bullet just went right through him. He turns to steel, but if you got something more dense flying at you at however many miles an hour a bullet flies, right through him.
Yeah, exactly. So that was pretty crazy, and I wasn't like I kind of was expecting it, but at the same time I wasn't expecting it. I don't know. It was good. I liked that.
Yeah, no, I don't think anyone was expecting it, because we at that point we'd seen him deflecting bullets like crazy, so we just figured he's gonna, call on that defense again, and sure enough, no, not this time. And it was a bit of a shock, yeah.
Yeah, so I
but
don't know.
Then as they're dragging him off when he's shot, he says a really cool, very famous DC line here. He says, I'm the Man of Steel.
I know. I thought that was a great play on words. And then you can kind of consider Dwarf Star to be his kryptonite. I totally liked that.
Yeah, that was pretty cool. I just love how they bring in these reminders that we're in the greater DC universe.
Yeah.
Mentioning of a Dark Knight or the Man of Steel. They've said these things a few times, so it's pretty cool.
Yeah, no, that is cool. I like that they do that and kind of throw that in there. Nice little Easter eggs.
Yeah.
Listening to you guys, I'm learning to listen for them more.
Oh, yeah.
I always catch the pop culture ones, but not the comic book ones all the time. Getting there, though.
The comic book ones are a little harder.
The basics. Batman and Superman, and the basics.
Well, yeah.
But yeah, so those are the ones that you catch. But if I say, do you know the character called The Question, you don't know what I'm talking about.
I could guess.
That's okay. I don't know that one either.
Okay.
Oh.
High five, Harley. Yay.
I really pulled an obscure one, but he's actually a lot of people like him. He's pretty popular. Anyway.
Yeah, let's keep moving. Sarah and Jonah, in kind of the last scenes right here, they discuss why he's after Turnbull in the first place, and it was basically all revenge. And he he throws out a quote that you might hear a little bit later here, but, basically he's not, he's like, you're a woman, you couldn't understand that. And I love that she is correcting him about her being the captain, cause he's like Miss Lance, and she's like, actually it's captain. And she's kind of basically forcing him to recognize her as a captain and as someone in a position of authority. And so I really just liked how strong she was, and it just, I don't know. I mean, maybe it's because I'm a woman myself, but I liked that part a lot.
Well, no, I mean, they've addressed that a few times. It's no different than Jax being in a time period when slavery was still running rampant. Sarah wants to make sure that, where she comes from, women are not minority anymore either.
Yeah.
Well, not as much anyway, things are changing, so she wants to kind of put Jonah in his place. So hey,
oh, yeah.
I am captain of this team, so you better, treat me as your equal right now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I liked that bit. But
there was another spot that kind of the same type of scene played out when they blew up the mine, and everybody Mick and everybody came flying out of the mine, and Turnbull and Jonah and Sarah were standing outside, and everything's flying everywhere, and there's explosions, everything happening, and Turnbull says, "You're a woman?" That's the one thing he notices, that Sarah's not a guy. I just thought that was really funny, that was, of all the things happening in that moment, that's what he fixated on. That was funny.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it definitely would be very out of place for that time period, so. Yeah, for sure. That was awesome.
Well, especially a woman dressing as a man too, right?
Yeah, well, I mean, he calls her boy earlier because he's assuming it's just a younger boy.
Yeah.
Which would explain the slight build and the not so deep voice, but.
Very pretty eyes for a boy.
Exactly. Alright, so kind of this next little bit we have, if we want to jump into it, is the whole plan about where they have to capture him. I mean, we've kind of touched on it a little bit, but I don't know. These were kind of the final, I don't know, sections of the episode, where, I mean, we learn, and we've talked about this already, exactly how he's going to shut down the West from, he's going to separate the West from the East, basically, by blowing up Summit Pass, which is the only way in between right now for the East, anyone from the East, to get into, the Wild West section of the United States. So if he totally cuts that off, he's basically completely isolating the western part of the United States. And
right.
So how is he going to do this? He's going to do it with a train.
Yeah, like a train full of explosives to blow it up, and that's
exactly. That. Exactly. Yeah. So he's loaded up this train that's going to go through the pass, with the dwarf star material, and the plan is that it'll blow everything up and prevent anyone else from coming back through. So the army won't be able to get through. No one will be able to get through. It'd be Outlaw Country. So Nate's decided. What? Go ahead.
Oh, so then we come, and this brings us to what starts off as a really, really cool moment out of any Western movie or TV show, where you got some cowboys on horseback that have to chase down a train.
Yeah.
I mean, it's really cool. And I was actually watching that scene going, okay, the train's kind of getting away, and if it's going faster than your horses can run, you're not going to catch it anymore. But then, once again, like Patty pointed out, off Nate goes, he takes off. Oh, I got this. And he takes off ahead of him, and Jack's kind of like, guess we should follow him.
Yeah, they're like, where's he going? I guess we'll go after him.
Yep. But, and so Nate's out there way out in front, and he decides that what ends up becoming, to me, the coolest scene in the whole episode, he decides he's gonna hop off his horse, steal up, and jump in front of the train and stop it with his bare hands. I mean, you don't get any more heroic than that.
Oh, no, it was a completely awesome scene, and I loved it. So my question is, how did he do that? Does he become heavier then?
Well, I think this is a combo. After I read your note here, I was thinking about it, and I think it's a combo. He must gain, similar to the dwarf star being very dense material, he must gain a lot of density when he turns to steel, right? So he probably gets somewhat heavier, but way more dense. And we've seen that he does get a lot stronger. It gives him a lot of strength too. So I think this, true. And this was a real test. I mean, he didn't know. He was kind of guessing, and he was testing himself. Okay, well, if I turn to steel, let me see if I can stop this train. And if I can't, I mean, I'm steel. I'm not going to get hurt.
That's true. But I mean, worst case scenario, he's steel and he gets shoved out of the way by the train.
Yeah. So he's going to try it, because what else are they going to do at that point? That's what he's thinking. So he's going to test his limits and his abilities and give it a try. And it was great. I mean, it was such a fantastic scene just to, I mean, the effects look great, and he's out there, and I mean, the train's plowing through him, and his feet are plowing through the railway boards lying across the tracks there. And I mean, it was just a great scene. And then it comes to the best part when he actually does stop the train, and he is so excited. He just had the moment of his lifetime.
Oh yeah. No, that was definitely one of my favorite scenes of the whole episode, for sure.
Yeah. Did you see it? Did you see it? I stopped the train, and they're all like, "Yeah, that was pretty cool." That was so. I mean, it was cool. It's cool that Ray was there with them, because Ray's just as excited, and Jax is pretty supportive of it, because Jax has got the whole teammate thing from his days of being a football player. So I think to have those two guys there to support him in his heroic moment, is perfect. It was a great little scene between the three of them.
Mm-hmm. Like I said, the scenes between the three of them, or the scenes with just Nate and Ray, were my favorites of the episode.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. All right. So, I mean, there's a couple little points in this whole thing. I don't know how much we really want to get into them, or if we just want to touch on the fact that, I mean, basically, there's the whole thing of how Sarah, turns in Hex to kind of get Turnbull alone and ultimately capture him. While this whole train train stopping is going on, I mean, you have that going on so that they could basically get to Turnbull and capture him, and then you also have Mick and Vixen who are in the mine, and they're gonna blow everything up.
Right.
So I don't know, was there anything in these, scenes specifically, anybody, that you guys wanted to talk about at all? I mean, other than Vixen's powers, what did you think about that?
Well, clarify a little bit more about Sarah turning in Hex to get to Turnbull. What about that scene?
I mean, if I was just kind of, at this point, I just like to kind of go through the episode and note what happens, to see if there's stuff we want to talk about. But basically, she uses him as if she's captured him. She puts him in handcuffs and kind of marches him into the camp and gets Turnbull's attention. And then he's like, "Oh, what do I gotta kill you for a third time?" And so he takes him off to be hanged or shot or whatever he was gonna do. And then Sarah, follows them and goes with them. And, that's how that's how they get him alone.
Right. And it's at that point he doesn't know who she is or anything at that point yet, right?
No, because she has her face covered, so he thinks she's some boy that's managed to capture Jonah Hex.
Yeah, so I think it's just an easy way to infiltrate and get in close to him, kind of thing. So yeah, I mean, it's
definitely. I mean, it worked. I was like I said, I wasn't super invested in this storyline.
No. But what we did see though, when we switched scenes to Mick and Vixen, and they're in the mine, getting ready to blow it up, they get, of course, blockaded in by a whole bunch of Turnbull's men, and they're totally outnumbered. And due to, I don't know, the outcry of fans, we get to see another animal spirit that she connects with, and she uses a rhino, which, holy cow, that's going to be cool, because here they are in a tight tunnel, and between them and the exit is quite a few men. So she turns into a rhino, and I'm picturing in my mind, she's going to plow through them. And that's what I wanted. I mean, it was cool. She ran up to them and punched them all out without anyone really stopping her. But I just thought it would be cool if she just was like a battering ram and just ran through them, because that's what rhinos do.
Yeah, I was expecting her to do more plowing through people, less punching through people.
Yeah. But it was still cool. I mean, we saw a new ability which gave her, I guess, charging strength, so she was able to just go, which is cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's good.
Well, while we're on Mick and Vixen, do you want to jump in I just had a point just on their scenes in general. I don't want to, rehash everything that happened between the two of them, but because they had a couple little scenes off to themselves throughout the whole episode, right? And I liked this insight to their characters, but other than getting insight into the characters, I mean, the scenes, to me at least, it kind of seemed a little pointless. So I'm wondering, do you think there'll be a payoff later in the season? Or was the payoff just supposed to be in this episode that she was able to, get through to him when he was, trying to beat these people to death in the mine? Instead of staying and trying to kill them, she was able to get him to leave and basically save his life.
Well, I guess to figure that out, why do you think she is wanting to help him and stop him? What do you think her reasoning is behind wanting to step in? Is it because throughout the episode up to this point, the rest of the team members kept saying, oh, we don't want to deal with him, we don't want to do it, and she's like, okay, I guess I will. Do you think she just kind of felt obligated? Or do you think there is something that there's reason for her? What do you think?
I have no idea.
I think she relates to him. She's had to tame her sort of inner beast. She was explaining, I think she sees that in him, and I think she really relates to him that way. And he's really been struggling without Captain Cold and not having that sort of sounding board and not having that person to keep him in line a little bit. And I think that's maybe what she's stepping into here.
That's a good point. She did use those words, something about taming the animal or taming the beast within. She said something along those lines.
Yeah,
she did. I like that.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. Maybe she is just seeing part of herself in him, and she figures she can help him out because she is part of the team now, as she's decided that she's sticking with him. So yeah.
And then I just had one last point on other character bonding, because we have Nate and Ray. So I mean, the discussion between the two of them, kind of while he's recovering, I like that they kind of do have similar powers, even though they function in very different ways. And they can really bond over that. So, I mean, essentially they both rely on armor. I mean, one basically turns into his armor while the other one has to wear a suit. But they learned that both, even though they both have their strong armor and their strong suits after a fashion, I mean, they still have their weak points. We learned that he's vulnerable to Dwarf Star and that the Atom suit had a self-destruct button. So, I thought that was just a really good point, that they needed to have that little bit of fear, to be brave and to be heroes, as opposed to just feeling invulnerable, and maybe that's what makes them feel like a hero,
Yeah, no, definitely. I totally agree with everything you just said. I'm especially loving the connection between these two because of what they can relate to each other on, and you just see a really good buddy type relationship developing between the two of them, because Ray is very nerdy about his gadgets and tech stuff, and Nate's very nerdy about his history and knowledge there, so they can both kind of geek out on stuff, and they understand each other's excitement about things, and it just allows them to enjoy things together, and I think it's so good for Ray, because Ray didn't have anybody to connect with last season.
Right.
So it's really allowing Ray to really blossom and just have more fun and not feel so alone and not important. That's cool. I'm really enjoying the two of them together.
Yeah,
I agree.
And I love he created the new suit grenade. That was very sad.
Yeah, I mean,
and very quickly.
That's true. That was quick.
It makes me always wonder, how much time when a big sequence ends, and then we flash to a new scene on the ship. Is that just moments later, or has a day or two gone by? You never really know. So yeah, you kind of got to wave your hand at that, how quick it happened. But maybe Ray was working on it for a little. Then again, one thing we didn't even bring up is at the very beginning of the episode when Nate was basically stealing all of Ray's cowboy clothes, and Ray kept that's mine and that's my hat. You saw Nate go up to the replicator and tapped the picture of a cowboy hat, and you saw it actually create a cowboy hat, like the lasers 3D printer, whatever the heck it was.
That was cool.
Made a hat, yeah. So you're like, oh, there, because we haven't seen that yet. So it was very cool to see that. Which leads to this now. Can Ray ask Gideon to create certain parts of his suit using that replicator machine?
Oh, that's a good point.
Maybe that's how he made Steel's suit. He just put the picture in and poof, out came a suit.
Yeah. Or, I mean, he could just talk to Gideon. Hey, Gideon, I need a chess piece. Can you make it look like this and look like this? And she'll say, she'll flash up an image like this. And, yeah, that's what I want. And then the thing I don't know. That's my way of how they can get things so fast. They've got that really nifty device there.
Yeah, that's interesting. I didn't think about it that way, but maybe.
Yeah, but like you said, what you started with, it looked cool. It was a neat looking. I mean, it was very heavily derived from the Atom suit. It had similar colors. It had the body pieces and the shoulder part. It looked very similar to Atom suit. He obviously was modeling it after his own. He just tailored it towards Steel and his new friend and what he knows about him, because it had the one big American star on the was it on the chest or on the forehead?
Yeah, it was on there somewhere.
Yeah.
I don't remember which part exactly, but.
So
it's just part of the bromance going on. They can look alike and they can hang out.
That is so. Now imagine when they're both in the field together, both in their suits. That'll be kind of fun to see. And I can't wait to see Steel put it in, so we'll have to.
It's going to be great.
Yeah.
I agree with all your points on those two. I'm really enjoying them. I didn't like Ray as much last season, and this season really, really liking all of his scenes, and he's funnier, and he's like the connection, like you say, he's blossoming. It's a good combo. I like these two.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I think probably for you, because you don't watch Arrow, you're not as historically connected to Ray as we are. He had a full season on Arrow as one of the characters, so that we've got a little bit more of a past with him.
I remember him on Flash for like a minute because he came in with Felicity one day.
Yeah.
To do some stuff, but that's all.
Yeah. Well, all right, you two. That kind of wraps up our episode talk. So let's get into some of our special features here. And the first one up is Nitpick of the Week.
Form of water.
Okay, Harley. Let's start with you. What did you come up with this week? Are you still struggling with finding a very strong, direct nitpick? Or?
Not for this episode. I mean, I talked about it a little bit, and it's kind of like a small one, but I'm not feeling the Mick and Vixen separate scenes. Like, I still just don't fully, appreciate, I don't know. I get that there's supposed to be character development moments, but I'm not connecting with it right now, and so I could just do without that. It just feels distracting to me. So, especially in this episode, I don't know why, but it was really distracting to me to have that little side scene going on.
Okay. It kind of, if it had to replace anything, it's replacing the romance between Ray and Kendra. You're just kind of like, we don't need this.
Kind of, yeah.
That
exactly.
feeling.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, they better not be leading up to that with those two.
I don't think they are.
Can't do it. No.
Well, I don't sense a romantic angle there. I don't know. I half feel what you're feeling, and maybe didn't. It just they seem like an odd pairing to be trying to develop a relationship with, because Mick's such a solo character. I like when Mick and Ray are together. They have some great scenes together. So maybe it's just the mix of Mick and Vixen aren't really a good match that's making it feel off.
I don't know. Yeah, it feels odd. I'm not a huge fan.
Okay.
But anyway, what was your nitpick?
So I'll just pass it on to Patty here. We'll go with the ladies first on this one. So Patty, I know you kind of found something a little more heavier, nitpicky than I did. So what you got?
Yeah, well, this is my first nitpick. I'm not really much for picking things apart, but I found that even though this is a really lighthearted show and that's the feel of it, there were a couple of moments that bordered on kind of cheesy for me. Like, I noticed it before when Ray was a caveman. I really found that it was a little too comical, too much. And this opening the whole episode's opening scene for me was like that. The whole little gunfight, and they found the time pirate and the lines and the lyric, like it just all seemed just too cheesy for me. I much more enjoy the clever quips and natural sort of humorous moments than the, I don't know, forced accents and the cheesier scenes. It almost makes the actors look like they're not doing a good job, and they're all really talented to be shown like that. So that was kind of my nitpick. It was just the opening scene in this one for me. The rest of the episode was really good, but just a few of those moments that are kind of bugging me. So there it is.
So when you say opening scene, you mean when it's just the time pirate and the Turnbull and his men?
Yeah, it was like just too over exaggerated that it's the Wild West and we're gonna I don't know, it just bothered me.
Okay, that's okay. Yeah, that's actually, you being kind of a Western girl, that's a little surprising to hear. So.
Well, that's maybe why, I don't know. It's too much.
I don't know, did you feel that, Harley? A bit of the same thing?
I think I felt a little bit of it throughout the whole episode. I mean, not anything that was super glaring, but I did feel like some of the accents were definitely being more forced, and then there were some of the lines that they had were a little on the cheesy side throughout. I mean, a lot of them were really good, but some of them really cheesy, and I was kind of just like, oh, that didn't work for me.
There were times you could tell they were joking around and bringing out funny lines and bringing out extra accents. Like, there were times when you could tell they were doing it on purpose, and that was funny. Like, it was well done. But just the beginning, for me, I don't know.
Okay. Well, I mean, listening to you both, that kind of ties into my opening feelings way back in the start of this, that some of the jokes seemed a little forced. Some of the humor and the situations just seemed like, they were just quickly wedging things into this episode just to get a full episode because of the 4 show crossover comes. So I guess that kind of all ties into that. We all got the same feeling, it just hit us in different ways. I guess I'm next.
Yeah, so do you want me to lead you a little bit?
I like it when you ask me questions, Harley.
I can ask you questions. You sounded for a minute like you were going to keep going, and then you stopped. All right, so Flash, what was your nitpick? You've heard from both of us. What did you think about it?
Oh, well, thanks for asking, Harley. It makes me feel so good that you're interested in what I think.
I'm always interested in what you think.
Mine's going to call back to the dwarf star material. If it's so dense, then how does anyone move it way back then in 1867? How do they have the tools to cut it? Can it even be chipped away with a pick? How does Ray get tons of it back on the ship at the end? And how does Turnbull even know what it is, what to do with it when he killed the time pirate before he even learned anything? Because the time pirate just said, I've got this material that'll help you out. Oh, great. Blam. Now it's mine. Well, he has no information about it. So this Wild West cowboy, how does he should not be able to figure anything out. And I don't think they have the tools to break it down to, like I said, chip away at it or to make bullets, or let alone even move it. If the stuff is so dense that, Steel himself can't even pick it up. That's my nitpick. I don't understand any of that could happen.
I would say that that's totally valid. That it's not something that I actually thought of. I actually, for once, just kind of rolled with it in the episode, but especially now, because the part that's sticking out to me is the part in the mine with Jax where he tries to pick it up and he can't even budge it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I'm totally with you. That they that did something weird there where
I had wondered earlier how they made gunpowder out of it, but that was a fleeting moment.
But see, there you go, Kevin. I've got two wonderful ladies backing me up, so I nitpicked the science out of that one.
We really are starting war, aren't we? Oh, dear.
But still. All right, guys. Well, let's move on to everybody's favorite quote of the week.
Yay.
I thought maybe Ray was going to give you a run for your money this week. He was pulling quotes out like crazy in the episode.
Yeah, I know. There is a lot of good quotes throughout the whole episode.
There was a lot, and I think we've got some pretty good ones this time. We really had to do some debating to figure out what ones we want to use, but I think we got some good ones.
I think so too. I'm very happy with the ones we selected.
So, what was our winner before we get started? What was our winning funny quote from last week, Carly?
Our winning quote from last week was McFly.
We're helping by fixing aberrations, not creating them. You're not thinking fourth dimensionally.
Did you really just use Doc Brown on me?
Who the hell is that?
The Back to the Future one, of course.
Of course. I'm 90% sure that's the one I voted for, if I remember correctly.
Did you have, because I know we did it a couple times, do you have a count on how many votes it got or how many it won by?
The official tally for the poll was, it looks like we had 8 for McFly, we had 3 for Permission for Affection, 2 for Dead or Alive, and 1 for Jelly Bean Thief. So McFly was kind of the landslide winner.
Cool, and I am happy that we're getting that many votes, because there was a time that we'd only get maybe 5 or 6 votes. So that we got up into double digits. That's fantastic.
Yeah, the votes have picked up this season.
Yeah, that's good. Well, so has our membership. What are we at? 104, 105 people now?
103.
103.
To our page right now.
Awesome. So good. Yeah. I love people voting on this. It's fun when we get a lot of people voting, and because when it comes down to the 2 votes to 2 or 3 votes to 1 or whatever, it's like, to me, that's not really showing that a quote is really winning or standing out. So when we got a lot of people voting and it allows one to walk away with it, or it allows for a really close 5-5 tie, then you know we got something pretty cool happening here.
Yeah, no, I agree.
So to everybody, we totally appreciate it. Let's get more people voting. So, funny quotes for this week, Harley. What do we got?
Our first quote is flashy jewelry.
Any idea why Dark wants this?
All I know is it's never a good idea when your nemesis starts accessorizing.
And he's teamed up with a speedster.
This is one of the ones I found very, very amusing right out of the gate.
Yeah, totally. Well, it's just the way she says it and the words she uses.
Yeah.
Totally makes sense. All right, what's number 2?
Number 2 is deja vu.
This guy.
How to go from desperado to accountant?
Well, at least Mick's having fun.
Stuck here doing research while everyone else is out drinking. It's like high school all over again.
Poor Nate.
Yeah. I feel like I can relate to that.
Okay, and third one is?
Impatient captain.
I started to wonder, how could he transport such a heavy shipment? He'd have to use the
railroad.
The railroad.
Okay, get to the part where we care, Ray.
I think he's going to use the railroad and the dwarf star to... Wait for it.
I don't want to wait for it.
Close Summit Pass.
That's one of my favorite ones.
The very last part, I don't want to wait for it, that totally makes sense.
Yeah, she almost sounds like a spoiled brat captain there. Okay, and our very last funny quote for this week.
Railroad hazard.
Did you see that? Tell me you saw that.
Yo, that was badass, dude.
Totally badass. You alright?
No.
But I stopped the train.
I think he's good.
Woo! I stopped the train!
Okay.
He was so funny.
Maybe that was my favorite. It's that whole scene was just awesome. Just seeing them be such excited, giddy little nerds was so fun.
It's so hard to choose. All right, shall we move to the serious quotes?
Yes, let's move on to serious quotes. So last week, our winning serious quote was, "Love for granted."
You, of all people, understand the importance of our research.
I understand the importance of one thing and one thing only. After everything I've accomplished all the awards I've won.
Did we win the 6 Carl?
The only thing that brings meaning to my life is Clarissa. Yes, Martin, our wife, who you've spent the last 2 days ignoring.
But I love Clarissa.
And I cherish her, Martin. Because I promise you, she is the only thing you will care to remember.
And I promise you, I'll make sure she knows I love her.
I pray that you do.
And you know what, actually, it surprised me that one won, but it seems like our legendaires have a bit of a soft heart. I think that was a very sweet, endearing kind of quote.
It was.
Did it walk away with it? What were the numbers for that one?
This one was a little closer. Love for Granny had 5. Canary Cry and Identity Crisis were tied with 4.
Oh.
And Cold Calling had 2.
Good. So this week, our series quotes. The first one is called Second Chances.
Well, here you are with the time ship.
Been there, tried that. Killing Dark would create ripples in history that I can't control. But there are things that I can control. I can help you capture Turnbull.
Even though I screwed up.
Been there too. I'm starting to think that screwing up is just an essential part of surviving.
That one seems to be very true for our team in general.
Yeah, it actually kind of what they've been doing the last couple of weeks. That one has a bit of a comical tone to it, but it's a serious moment.
Yeah, a couple of these do. I think that's what makes them so good. All right, what was our second series quote?
The second one is Joker on Fire.
What happened out there today? You lost control.
Says you. That man back in town, the drinker, the gambler, the animal that wants to watch the whole world burn. That's the real me.
I'm naturally going to love this one.
Yeah. But you know what? It's kind of Mick, really. He's almost, I guess he's opening up there, but he's just kind of expressing how he feels about himself.
Yeah. I mean, it's a very apt description. And plus, anytime anyone uses that phrase about watching the world burn, it just reminds me of the Dark Knight every time.
Right. And again, yet another reference to the greater DC universe.
And I know. All right, what did we have next?
Our next one on the list is Strength of She-Ra.
But I'm gonna turn him over to the authorities, so you don't have to worry about your aberration. Only territory Turnbull's gonna be claiming is a cold, dark prison cell.
Then our work here is done.
You're doing a mighty fine job bearing a burden few men could deal with.
Good thing I'm a woman then.
Yes, ma'am.
That's a great name. And a great.
It is. That was a collaborative effort on us three to name that one.
We have the power.
Guys, you're just fitting right in here. This is awesome.
I can do 80s cartoons.
Probably better than I can.
Yeah. We discussed that last week, yeah.
I was going to say, we've discussed this before. We should probably not bring it up again. All right, what was that last quote here?
Our last serious quote for this week is earning your medal.
It's not exactly what was in your drawing. I made a few improvements.
Shut the front door.
Yeah. I figured you earned it. Steal.
Cool name.
Oh man, you know what? It's going to be tough voting this week. Wow, we picked some good ones.
We did pick some good ones. That one. His reaction makes me laugh. Shut the fuck.
Yeah. It's a cool name. Yeah. No, very cool. And again, it just brings back to the relationship between those two. I think that's the best relationship on the show right now.
Yeah, I agree.
It's a lot of fun.
All right, so Patty, are you ready? What time is it?
It's time for feedback.
Feedback. Oh God, we're cracking. I think we're cracking windows all over the world right now.
People are pulling headphones out of their ears.
Powers, activate!
All right, well, we did get some feedback in. I put a little emergency call out on the Facebook page today because, again, people seem to be a little bit quiet or busy this week, or maybe not enjoying the episode so much. I'm not sure, but thank you to the 4 of you. I got in some feedback today for us, which is awesome. And we're going to start it off with a voicemail from the Green Butterfly.
Hi, this is your Eye in the Sky Green Butterfly. Okay, so I wasn't really looking forward to this episode because I wasn't ready to go back to the Wild West. But it turned out to be much more fun than I expected. Citizen Seal stopped a train. I mean, he stood in front of a train and stopped it. It was amazing. And he got a suit. I really think somebody must be listening to this podcast because I'm pretty sure you discussed what happens to his clothes in the previous episode. And in this episode, he told us that they get all stretched out. I love Ray teaching Nate the historian how things are because he's already been to the Old West, so he knows all about it. And Sarah looked completely adorable when she said, "This is not my first rodeo." I'm very glad that Jonah found some respect for Sarah as the captain. Speaking of Sarah, I'm still watching our other shows to see if what Sarah did in 1987 with Damien Dark will have any effect. I know we're already dealing with Flashpoint due to Barry Allen's actions, but I'm wondering if there will be any time ripples due to Sarah's actions in 1987. But I still love her. Let's face it, everyone makes mistakes, but I do wonder if this mistake will have any consequences in the overall universe. Martin Stein is experiencing consequences due to talking to himself. I suppose that was bound to happen too. And it shows good continuity in writing when they show us that every action has a reaction. I'm glad that they're always pairing off different legends together. And this week we got to see Amaya and Rory. And I think Amaya helping Rory contain his animal instincts is very important if Rory wants to remain alive long term. And Ray is adorable, chewing on his Tootsie Roll, trying to be all cool and Western. This episode gets 8 out of 10 pounds of dwarf star alloy. Have a super week. Green Butterfly out.
Oh, thanks so much, Jacina. As always, your emails light up our faces. It's just great. You know what? I'm gonna echo something because they talked about you and your feedback on Arrow Squad, and I want to echo that here. That no matter what seems to be going on in the episode, Justina just seems to find the positive and the brightness and the fun and the light in it. And we could be ripping on something, and she does it on Arrow Squad too. They could be ripping on something that happened on Arrow, and then she'll send in her feedback and change everybody's perspectives. And it's awesome that she has that ability. That's I think her superpower.
Oh yeah, totally. Justina, I love hearing your voicemails, no matter where I hear them, whether it's on this podcast or any of the other ones that, you know, we all listen to that you contribute to. And you're always so positive. I love it. Especially on an episode where we were kind of down on some of the stuff, so.
Yeah, her feedback this week over on Supergirl, the Made of Steel podcast.
I won't talk too much about it, but she was talking a bit about her own life and how she really connected to some events that were happening in this episode. And it was really touching to hear her share some of that. And, you know, just it really brings a sense of how close all of us are becoming just from being on these podcasts together. And even though a lot of us have never met in real life, the fact that we've developed this community, and I like to call the Arrow Squad kind of family, it's really amazing. And I really would like to meet quite a few of you in person one day. So hopefully sometime we can arrange all of that. And just the fact that you were brave enough and felt comfortable enough to say a few of those things you've seen, it's awesome, and I totally commend you, and we're here for you too.
Well, I will look forward to hearing that.
Yeah. But thanks for that awesome feedback. Is there anything that she really hit on we want to discuss a little?
No, I mean, I would just love hearing like her points and her perspective. She always has some good things that she wants to bring out. I mean, it was just an excellent feedback as always.
Flash was over there giving the thumbs up, bouncing in his chair during it, which was kind of funny. So, for those of you that can't see him,
Patty's providing a visual element to this audio podcast, so that's kind of funny.
It's really funny.
I fully support it. Did you guys have any comments on anything else? I mean, Martin, you kind of gave some good comments. Patty,
yeah. Well, I think just specifically to some of the things she was saying, she just touched on some of the real positive elements of the show. Like, she actually turned it around about she understands how Vixen is helping Mick, and so that helped. Like I said, it helped shed a little bit more light to that area when the three of us weren't really feeling it. I'm just glad that she's enjoying the show, and her excitement over Steele stopping the train. That's exactly the type of excitement that we watched our characters enjoy, and that we got to enjoy viewing them play that part. So she really just kind of encapsulated that whole feeling.
Oh yeah.
I always agree with her feedback, actually. I always kind of nod as I'm listening, whatever she calls in, as a listener.
Yeah, totally. So, yes, thank you, Justina. All right, so next we've got an email from Killer Frost.
All right, I'll take this one.
Okay.
She says, "Hi all, I give this episode 8 out of 10 Hidden Ace of Hearts. It was a fun episode. Things I noticed. Did they use a sepia filter at times, or do I need to worry about my TV? I sure if it was the filter, I'll like it even more. You gotta love bar brawls back in the Wild Wild West, especially when someone brings a whip. I think screwing up is just part of surviving. So true. I thought Sarah was being quite hypocritical before that quote, but she turned it around."
Yeah, well, there's the saying that goes along with it is you don't learn from doing things right all the time. You only learn from mistakes, right?
That is very true. All right. She says Stein's memory loss, is it due to younger Stein, or is it possibly a Flashpoint issue? I thought it was younger Stein, personally.
Yeah.
Flashpoint didn't happen till after all of those times, right?
That's true.
How are you meaning,
like Stein talked to his younger self, and his younger self was many years before the Flashpoint thing happened, right?
Before the time of Barry Allen's mom's death. Yeah, because Stein is a lot older, so going back to his younger self, Barry probably wasn't even born yet.
Yeah, if we're assuming Barry is in his at least mid-20s, he would have been born in the 90s.
Yeah. So this would have been in the 70s?
70s they were in, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, that's a good point there. Yeah, so it leads us to think that it was younger Stein that could be causing the memory loss, which we saw he was already on a different path because he was working in the White House last episode when he wasn't there before. So something has changed. Things have changed.
Yeah, things have definitely changed.
I think that's really probably where it's coming from, is something's changed in his younger self.
So she continues, "It makes me sad that Mick doesn't see himself as a part of the team, and I wish he would not hide his intelligence." It's fair. Turnbull wasn't a very villainous villain. Made me miss seeing more from Dark in the Reverse Flash. You would never have heard me say that about Savage or Dark last season.
Yeah. No, good points. I mean, this was kind of a filler episode, so yeah, the Wild West. Although I love the actor that played the role of Turnbull, Jeff Fahey. He's been a great character actor in so many other TV shows, and I even remember him from the original Lawnmower Man movie. which is based on a Stephen King novel. That's when I first met him, and it was a fantastic movie. So, yeah, I enjoyed seeing him in here, but yeah, I wasn't a really strong villain to agree with you there, Killer Frost. So, but it's good. That's a good sign that not having Dark or Reverse Flash in an episode makes you miss having them there. That means that their storylines are really affecting us.
She says, woohoo, the crossover is almost here. And that's all I got. Happy Thanksgiving, all belated to all you Canucks. Until next time, Killer Frost.
I guess that's 2 of us tonight.
Yeah, you guys are outnumbering me.
Well,
thanks. It's next week.
Because we already...
Ours was a month ago.
A month ago, yeah.
That's so weird. Did you do it in October? What? October's about Halloween, people. I'm just kidding.
It's like the 10th or 11th usually of October.
Jeez, listen to the American trying to tell us how to run our lives. Isn't that a little...
So weird.
We're gonna have to go we'll go Bob and Doug on her for a minute.
She has no idea.
Oh, Bob and Doug McKenzie. It's just Google it.
Okay.
You guys had your Saturday Night Live. We had a Canadian equivalent called SCTV. And Bob and Doug McKenzie were 2 very typical Canadians, as the rest of the world thinks Canadians are. So, yeah, they're pretty goofy. But it's kind of funny for me, because here I thought I was going to have the 2 girls against me outnumbering scenario, and it just suddenly became 2 Canadians against 1 American.
Yeah, pretty much. Well, let's move on to our next.
How about we move on? All right, so next we have a voicemail from Opal Drake.
Hello, there's Opal Drake here with some feedback for Outlaw Country. First of all, a quick response from last week. I do watch Flash, but not Arrow. Flash was where I came into the Brillantiverse and is pretty much battling it out with Supergirl for my favorite of the Tetrad. Right now, Flash is winning that since Supergirl has gotten a bit heavy-handed with the politics. I gave Arrow a try last season. It didn't really catch me. They dropped the opening voiceover, I guess, so I was pretty lost. And apparently last season was pretty weak also. So if you have recommendations for Arrow, I definitely wouldn't mind catching a few episodes focusing on our friend Damien Dark. Also, I may have mentioned I'm not super familiar with the comics because I tend to stick to standalone, non-superhero stuff. So if you've got good recommendations for Flash or Arrow trades, that'd be cool too. So, on to the episode. Good campy Western fun. Good to see Jonah back again, but where's Rip? If he's not shacked up with Jonah out on the frontier, I don't know where he is. Maybe he wound up in Roman times. I so want to go back to Roman times because he felt a strange pull to join the 13th Legion and become a centurion. So Ray and Nate kind of took the comic relief role over from Rory, and more about Rory in a minute. Had some great lines. I'm not sure what I think about Nate's suit. I know he's a super, and supers need suits, but I kind of liked him in street clothes with his steel self. Speaking of Rory, we had a bit of a dark moment with talking about how he feels like an outsider even on the team. Hopefully that doesn't mean anything too bad for him in the future. It was great to see Amaya with a new animal, and honestly, wouldn't a rhino be a heck of a lot stronger than an ape anyway? The scene with Jax, Ray, and Nate riding to catch this train kind of made me laugh, probably not for reasons they were intending. They only showed Nate's face, and he obviously wasn't really on a horse.
I caught that too.
They were talking. They either had the horses from behind, or wide shots, or my personal favorite, a shot of the horses' bellies and legs while they were running. It was nice to get an answer on where they're getting the costumes, since they've apparently got a costume replicator there on the ship. Also, why wouldn't tax collectors wear hats? Everybody wore hats back then, although most people actually wore bowlers, not Stetsons. My nitpick, not quite sure why the dwarf star being on the train should have been a problem for Nate. The bullet was either made of or maybe coated with dwarf star. Surely the train was just a train, not a dwarf star clad train.
I thought that
The
too.
only issue should be that it would be super heavy. And question, does Nate have super strength? I'm not sure. But we can't think about that too much, because if it's super heavy, how is the train even moving? Never mind. Going question. I'm wondering what's up with the time pirates. Are they just randos doing their nefarious time crimes for their own reasons, or is there some guiding hand, some king of the time pirates, some time Captain Flint or Calico Jack Rackham or Charles Vane, sending them out to cause trouble? I don't know. So I guess I'll give this 7.5 out of 10. Yahoo! Cheers and Opal Drake.
That was a favorite.
Wow. Okay, Harley, what were you jotting notes down? Because he had a lot of points and some questions to go over there for sure.
I did jot down a couple notes. There was quite a few that we actually did cover within the podcast as we went along, like Nate's super strength, and we touched on that train quite a bit. Mm-hmm. Although I did enjoy his point because I thought the exact same thing of why would it be a problem of it carrying Dwarf Star? Why would that make it a problem for him to stop? It's not like it's made out of Dwarf Star. I had the exact same.
Why, the question is, why would it be a problem to stop the train? Is that what you're...
Yeah, because Jack seemed to think that, like, if he tried to stop the train with Dwarf Star on it, that it would harm him, not because of the train or the weight, but because of the Dwarf Star, or at least that's how I interpreted it, and that's how Opal Drake interpreted it as well.
Well, maybe his only concern was that if Nate couldn't stop the train in time and the train ended up blowing up while he was trying to stop it, because they know he's weak to Dwarf Star, so if a Dwarf Star explosion happened while he was there, it could kill him.
That's plausible.
Mm-hmm.
I just assumed.
That's plausible.
Yeah. So hopefully okay. But yeah, like you said, hopefully, Opal Drake, we answered a lot of your thoughts throughout the episode. And then I kind of created homework for us, Harley. I had questioned him if he watches The Flash and stuff, and if there was anything he wanted us to recommend for him. So he was asking about episodes of Arrow that were dark heavy.
I'm laughing because I'm like, careful what you wish for, Opal Drake, because I have to do this sometimes too, do my homework, and there's a lot. If you ask Flash, there's a lot, so be prepared.
So with Arrow, Opal Drake, if you really want it, I feel bad because you said you started it last season, and it's unfortunate because season 4 is widely regarded as the worst season of the 5 of them. That's a shame you started down because that's going to put a sour taste in your mouth.
If you want to watch Arrow, I would start at the beginning if you want to watch the whole thing. But
yeah, but even to get a taste of how good it was, if you watch season 1 and 2, season 1 really kind of introduces you to the concept and kind of gets the ball rolling. It's pretty good season, but it's not until season 2 that it really takes off and gets very dramatic and very character heavy and very, like, there are so many moments in season 2 that you're either going, edge of your seat, take your breath away, or you're really feeling for the characters. By far is the best season, so I think definitely check those 2 out if you have the time to catch up. And season 3's okay. It's season 3 was kind of half and half. And a half season that was really good, and half that was they really seemed to lost their way. But what we can do if you don't want to watch all of season 4, because Damon Dark was only last season, so we can try and come up with a small list of episodes. If you can recall, Harley, if we can work on that for him, maybe that good ones for him to watch. And then you said he's enjoying Supergirl and he's enjoying Flash as his runaway favorite. I think that's the general consensus out of all of the viewers of these 4 shows, that Flash is kind of the leader of the pack for sure.
Yeah, that's true.
Anyway, I think there's nothing that stands out that we need to address from his email that we didn't already talk about.
No, I mean, well, during the podcast, the only thing we didn't talk about was that there was no mention of Rip at all. And and a lot of people did have the theory that, like, he would be hiding out in the Wild West, but if he is, we definitely did not see him, so I think a lot of people were expecting Rip to return this episode, and he did not. But I do not have a good theory as to where he is. I am of the opinion he will be back. I just don't know where he is or how he will return.
Yeah, that's crazy. Like, where is he, and why is he there, and what is he doing?
Yep, that's the question.
Now here, I'm going to make Brian the Shadow proud here. I am going to throw a out of left field crazy theory. What if Rip is the one that's sending the Time Pirates back in time to cause havoc?
I mean,
why he would be doing that, I have no idea, but what if he's testing his team?
Yeah.
Oh, I like that. That'll be a lot of fun if they do that.
What do you think, Carly?
I think it's interesting. I like it.
Okay. Who knows? We'll see. Anyway, thank you, Opal Drake, for that. Totally appreciate you calling in every week and giving us some pretty good thoughts and theories. So just let us know if we are answering everything for you throughout the episode, because it's your feedback is very point for point on what we were talking about. All right, our last email is from Sidekick Denny.
Oh dear.
All right, this one is for you to take away, Patty.
Oh, okay. All right, so Denny says, "Hello, Wonder Twins. The time ripples from Stein's past may finally be affecting his present self. Maybe the woman is his new wife due to their interference with his past. Or perhaps something as a result of Flashpoint having a delayed effect on our legends."
Okay, see, everybody seems to think Flashpoint might have a play on these things, and it's possible. It may be. I mean, Flash could have done something.
It could. I think we debunked that, honestly.
Okay.
Yeah. I think they play too much in the past in the far past for Flashpoint to affect them.
Right.
Personally.
And I threw out the theory that it could be his daughter instead, so we'll see.
I like that.
So Denny goes on, "Steel is steel, but I guess there is always something stronger than steel. So Nate's vulnerable to metals that are denser than steel. Good to know. Perhaps his new suit, which I'm assuming is made from dwarf star alloy, will help protect him against other dense metals. Not sure if Ray will have a suit ready for the big crossover event in a couple of weeks. Oh, I hope so. Hope he has something prepared. Wonder what kind of distress signal was used to contact the Waverider, especially when it's traveling through time."
Oh yeah, good point, because we didn't even talk about the end of the episode where Sarah interrupts Ray and Nate to say, "Guys, we got to go help our friends in 2016.
Maybe it was a super secret. I guess no one else knows about that room, so never mind. It can't be a super secret voicemail from Barry Allen.
No, yeah. So how do they get a signal to the Waverider?
Maybe through Gideon somehow.
Or the time beacon concept. Maybe they did that.
Yeah.
Curious.
Okay. Interesting.
Sarah should know much better than Hex that usually when a woman tells you to put on handcuffs, it's usually a bit more, you guys know what I mean." Okay. All right. Looking forward to the 4-day crossover in the coming weeks. Are you guys going to do one big podcast for all 4? Or even unite with the other podcasters from the other shows to do a huge podcast event? Podcast crossovers for each day? That would be interesting. From still have not figured out a name yet, Denny.
Not off yet.
That's too long. It is.
Yeah, holy, with the crossover coming, and we have been talking behind the scenes a little bit with the other shows about doing a massive crossover podcasting event. They were talking about it on Aero Squad today because they were also questioned about it, and they kind of added up the numbers. That's 9 podcasters between all 4 of our shows. 9 people on the same channel all trying to say something. It might be pretty chaotic, but I think it would be a blast. I would love to jump on that and try it. It's just logistics we're all unsure of. Like, you've got Monday to Thursday, a show on each night. When do you record? When do we all get together to record? 4 of those shows, do we wait till all 4 have aired and we do a massive Friday night recording, or do we record a podcast after each episode? Yeah, we're tossing around. We're talking. We are figuring out behind the scenes, and I know I want to do it. Harley?
Logistics may be difficult for me, but if I can make it work, I would love to, but I cannot really record during the week.
Right.
So if it's a reactionary after each show option, I unfortunately won't be able to participate in that.
Yeah, I know I really want to do it. So if we can swing it to even say have a roundtable discussion on our usual Friday show or usual Friday recording, or it could have at least a couple of the other guys and ladies from Supergirl to join us and do kind of like an end of the week discussion. I don't know. We'll figure something out. I know we want to do it. It would just be fun to get involved with the other shows.
Yeah.
Because this is huge. This is unprecedented in TV history. There's never been 4 TV shows all connected and intertwined with their stories that they can do a crossover. It's a big deal. So I think we need to make something of it.
Yeah, it is very cool. I'm excited for it.
Cool. Well, thank you, Denny, for all of that. All right, Harley, how can people get in touch with us just like these 4 fine folks did?
Well, if you would like to join in the discussion, you can submit feedback via email to cybercastfan@gmail.com. That's cybercastfan@gmail.com. Please submit all feedback by 8 p.m. Eastern on Fridays following the show. You can also join the Facebook group at facebook.com/groups/tomorrowslegends, and you can follow us on Twitter at Cybercast. All of these details and more can be found on our website at tomorrowslegends.libsyn.com, and Libsyn is Libsyn. And there you can subscribe in iTunes, download episodes, and leave comments about each of our shows. And hey, while you're out in iTunes, can you rate us and leave a review? That would definitely help the podcast exposure.
Yes, please do. You know, something I was thinking about this week, after you read all that off, I listened to Arrow Squad and Central City Underground and Supergirl and Gotham Undercover, and they all talk about the Golden Spiral Network and how they're all part of it. And our listeners know that we are not, but I never talk about what network we're part of. I never talk about where this all comes from, and I'm going to just kind of do a little own personal plug here. I mean, we are truthfully part of the Cybercast network. I've named our podcasting website and everything that we work around it as Cybercast, hence the email cybercastfan@gmail.com. So my original plan was to do other podcast shows along with our Legends one. It's just Legends has taken our main focus, but I have plans to do kind of a nerdy fan-based show where I just talk about things that I enjoy. Whether it's I've got an idea for doing a top 10 list of the best 80s cartoons, in my opinion, and talk about other interests like space. I love space and solar systems and stars and galaxies and all that kind of stuff. I'd love to do a discussion based on that, or a discussion based on comic books. I have an idea to do a whole Marvel versus DC beatdown kind of theme, and have a co-host with me on that, and we can discuss the differences and similarities between the two, and yeah, just ideas like that. So Cybercast is a network, and we've got Legend of Tomorrow that's part of that, and then I've got my show that I just told you about, and then I also, part of that network is my movie review page, which is the Cyber Movie Review, and I haven't done it in a while, but I do have a Facebook page on there, and I basically do a very Siskel and Ebert style review where I break down a movie based on its acting and its directing and its soundtrack and its plot points. So I just really like to dive into it and really break down a movie without giving too much away, because I'm just so tired of all these movie reviewers. They're out there 2 thumbs up or 5 stars or 88% on Rotten Tomatoes. They don't give you any information to really go on, and I like to really break it down and talk about it. So all of these things are all underneath Cyber Tiger Productions, and Cybercast is just the podcasting branch of it that me and Harley here are working under. So eventually it'll grow, and yeah. So there you go.
Excellent.
So that's just things, and I would love if you guys want to follow along that journey with me in growing and expanding this. That would be great. If you guys have ideas, if anyone would like to be a guest host with one of the ideas I mentioned and want to come talk to me on that, then we can work something out and have some other fun shows. So yeah. Anyway, I think that's it for us for the night. I have to pass along sincerely big thank yous to Patty Spivot for joining us.
Oh, thanks for having me, guys.
Always a pleasure.
Yeah, you guys are a lot of fun. I get to see the Wonder Twins in action. It's good.
Ooh, Wonder Twin powers activate.
Yeah, gotta play our clip.
Wonder Twin powers activate!
No, it was fun to have you on here, have a third perspective, a third pair of eyes to kind of snap me and Harley out of our funk sometimes we get with some of these episodes.
Yeah, we needed some help with this one, so it was good to have your positivity.
Yeah, but I hope it was enjoyable for you, and I hope it was enjoyable for our listeners, and we'll have to see who we possibly have on for another guest appearance, but maybe we'll bring you back too.
Okay, we'll see.
So we will sign off now. I'll let you have the honors. Miss Patty Spivot, you can be the first one.
Okay, this is Patty Spivot signing off, I guess. I don't know what to say.
Okay, how about I will start, Harley will follow, and you can follow suit with how we do it.
Okay.
All right, so you just follow our lead here, Patty. Again, just thank you for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
We'll talk to you, Legendaires, in 2 weeks. Have a good week off, and I guess it's Thanksgiving for you guys down there, Harley?
It is, so happy Thanksgiving to everybody here in the States.
Yes, happy Thanksgiving to all of our American friends. And for 2 weeks, this is Flash, signing off.
And this is Harley Quinn. I'm out.
And Patty Spivot. Good night, everybody.